Hi guys! Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. And kumusta po ang inyong celebration ng Easter holiday? I hope maganda po ang inyong celebration and nakapagpahinga po tayo, nakasama po natin ang ating mga pamilya. And I hope that we find comfort and hope na kahit ano man ang ating mga kinakaharap ngayon, kung may mga problema man tayo, kung may mga issues tayo na inaharap, I hope maging positive pa rin ang ating attitude and hayaan nyo lahat naman ng problema may solusyon as long as we commit ourselves to help and resolve those issues. Bakit nga pala ako nagkukwento ngayon? So, kukwento ko lang kasi last week, I talked to my colleague while at work and napagkwentuhan lang namin, sabi ko sa kanya, gusto ko sana isulat and then i-post ko sa profile ko, pero ang hirap, parang nakakatamad magsulat and then baka naman mamaya may iba pa yung kwento. So, ikukwento ko na lang sa inyo. So, I met this colleague of mine, Faisa. Faisa is a refugee from Eritrea. And then, yun nga, nandito siya in Belgium for I think almost 3 years. Dito siya sa Belgium. So while nagtatrabaho kami, kasi tumulong ako sa kanya sa production, sabi ko sa kanya, Faisa, paano ka nakarating dito sa Belgium? Sabi niya, ay nako Sean, mahabang kwento. Sabi ko, sige nga, ikwento mo nga sa akin paano ka nakarating dito. So yun, kwento niya sa akin. So, he's from Eritrea. So Eritrea is a country in Africa. Meron siyang border ng Ethiopia, katabi siya ng Ethiopia, Djibouti, at saka, I'm not sure, Sudan or Somalia. Hindi ko ako sure dun sa dalawa. So, maliit lang siya na country, and then, it so happened na, kasi sa kanila, once na nakaabot ka ng 18 years old, up to 40 years old, mandatory sa kanila ang mag-serve sa military service and to defend their countries. Yun nga lang, ayaw niyang pumasok sa military kasi they are pinagpipilitan sila, hinihikayat na it is mandatory. So, pilit silang lahat ng mga babae at lalaki na nagkakaedad ng 18 years old to 40 years old to serve military in Eritrea. Kasi kulang sila sa mga sundalo. And aside from that, sabi niya, ayokong mag-serve sa military kasi most of my generation, my 400 years, yung mga lolo ko, yung papa ko, uncle ko, lahat sila naging military, naging part ng military service, and then they did not survive, and I don't want it to happen. So, kaya siya nag-flee. So, umalis siya sa kanyang bayan, sa kanyang country, kasi ayaw niyang maging part ng military ng Eritrea. So, bakit nga ba sila required? So, sabi ko, ilang taon ka ba dapat mag-serve ng military? Sabi niya, normally 18 months, for 18 months, men and women who are aged from 18 to 40 years old, they have to be in the military for 18 months. Yun nga lang, hindi siya nasusunod. So, ang nangyayari doon, instead na 18 months, nagiging indefinite yung kanilang stay doon sa military. So, wala silang kawala. Kaya ayaw niyang maging part ng military. So, ang nangyayari, kasi nga kulang nga sila ng mga military, kahit yung mga 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, mga bata pa, ginagawang children soldiers. So, yun yung ayaw niya. Kaya siya umalis sa country nila. So, what happened kung yung anak mo or yung anak mo na babae or na lalaki na ayaw nilang maging military, sabi niya, yung kanilang government, the other military personnel are harassing their family. So, yung iba sa kanila, they were evicted from their home. So, kaya yung iba sa kanila talagang pinipilit din nila na yung mga anak nila, kung kaya pang umalis ng bansa, they support them so that they can fly and they can run away from whatever is happening in their country. Kasi sabi niya, ayoko maging part ng giyera kasi wala naman akong problema sa war. They are fighting against Ethiopia, and he said, Ethiopia, we are like brothers and sisters. We speak the same language. Bakit kami mag-aaway? We don't fight with any Ethiopia. Yun nga lang, the government is the one fighting. So nadadamay yung mga tao. It's like Russia and Ukraine. They speak the same language. Problema nila, ayaw nilang mag-fight sa isa't isa. Yun nga lang, they were also forced by some of their government to fight. So yun yung ayaw niya. Kaya sabi niya, flee siya sa kanyang country. So sabi ko, paano ka nakalabas ng bansa? Kasi 'di ba, ang hirap kaya niyan. May mga control. Sabi niya, ang kwento niya is from Eritrea, he went to Libya. He paid 1,000 euro para makakuha ng paraan para ma-smuggle sila dun sa Libya. And it took them 7 days by car passing Sahara Desert para lang makarating ng Libya. So sabi niya, ang haba pala ng biyahe niyo. Paano ka nakarating doon? Sabi niya, they were given 1 gallon of water. So yung 1 gallon na yon is 4 liters of water. And then yung 1 gallon na yon is nilagyan nila ng a little bit of benzene or diesel. Sabi ko, paano? Bakit may diesel at saka gasoline yung tubig na iinumin nyo? Konti lang naman daw. Sabi niya, kaya nilagay doon is kasi pag iinumin mo siya tapos nafe-feel mo na may iba yung lasa, you will stop drinking that water. Otherwise, kung okay yung lasa ng tubig, mauubos mo yung 4 liters ng water for just few days or even, hindi ka makakaabot ng 7 days. So, yun yung strategy nila para maka-survive in the desert. And while they were traveling, sa kwento niya, by car, nakikita nila sa gilid ng daan, nakikita nila sa pinagdadaanan nila, maraming mga bangkay, may mga skeleton na lang daw kasi hindi nakasurvive dun sa desierto kasi mainit masyado sa Sahara Desert, diba? So, yun. So, nakikita nila dyan, mga bata, mga babae, hindi nakasurvive sa trip na yon papuntang Libya. Kasi 7 days, wala kang ibang source ng tubig at pagkain, kundi yung baon nyo lang. And then, hindi ka rin pwedeng mag-stop on their way kasi baka mamaya may hahabol sa inyo or baka may magko-control na ganyan. So, finally, he was able to arrive in Libya for after 7 days. And then, sabi niya, ang hirap ng buhay ko doon kasi the Eritreans, just like Ethiopians, they are also darkened skin. So, medyo dark yung kanilang skin. Samantalang sa Libya, they are white in skin. So, pagdating nila doon, nakikita kaagad sila na iba sila doon sa mga tao na nandun sa Libya. And then, they were not so friendly with them kasi most of the Eritreans are Christian, especially Christians. May mga Muslims naman na mga Eritreans. And they are forcibly encouraging, not encouraging, but they're forcing them to go to the mosque. And yun. So, yung, sabi niya, pag may kwintas ka na may cross, they will hahablutin nila yun. And then yung iba is nasusugat yung kanila mga leeg. So, yun. Sabi niya, ang hirap ng pinagdadaanan namin dun sa Libya. Pero wala siyang choice kasi yun yung way para siya makaalis at makapuntang Europe. So, sabi ko, 1,000 euro. Ba, ang yaman naman ng mga smugglers na yun, no? Kung lahat ng mga tao magbabayad ng 1,000 euro. Sabi ko, paano ka naman nakarating dito sa Belgium? So from Libya, how did you do it? So sabi niya, from Libya, after 6 months, nakahanap na naman siya ulit ng mga smugglers who is promising him to bring to Italy in Lampedusa. So by boat. So by boat, he paid 2,000 euro para makasakay siya dun sa boat na yon. And then, that boat is going to Lampedusa kasama yung ibang mga asylum seekers, mga refugees. Sabi ko, ilan ang mga tao dun sa boat na yon kasi maliit lang naman yung bangka na yun. So, sabi niya mga nasa 200, 250 to 300 people yung kanyang kasama dun sa bangka. Sabi ko, by boat. Sabi ko, ang laki pala ng pera ng mga smugglers, no? Kasi kung lahat ng mga tao na yun magbabayad ng 2,000 euro, ang laki ng income nila. Sabi niya, hindi lang naman iisa yung smugglers. So parang networking siya, parang may mga 15 smugglers na ganyan. So may mga parating na ganyan. And then sabi niya, minsan daw nililipat sila ng ibang bahay para hindi sa ma-chase. So binibigyan ng pagkain, ganyan. Tapos doon. Hanggang sa nakasakay siya ng boat. And then, may malaki dong bagyo nung pagdating nila doon sa, papunta na sa Italy. Ang lakas ng bagyo, buti na lang daw nakita sila ng Red Cross. So, boat ng Red Cross, malaking Red Cross, and then they were being rescued from the storm. So, finally, nakarating sila through Red Cross, kinuha sila doon sa boat, and then they were safe. And then, na-register sila, kinuha yung kanilang mga pangalan. And then, Red Cross gave them food. And then, Red Cross gave them 30 euros. Sabi niya, punta ka ng Rome para magpa-register doon. Kasi nandun yung parang center yata for refugees. Ganyan. And then, nakarating siya ng Rome by train. And then, from train, sabi ko, Faisa, ang laki ng gastos mo Biruin mo, 1,000 euro yung binayad mo from Eritrea to Libya. And then from Libya to Italy, 2,000 euro. Paano ka nakakuha ng 3,000 euro na yan? Kasi kung wala ka palang 3,000 euro, you cannot able to makasakay sa bangka, di ba? Makasakay sa barko, and then ganyan. Sabi niya, buti na lang daw, meron siyang sister who is also a refugee, and she is now living in Switzerland. So yung sister na yon, siya yung nagpapadala ng pera sa kanya para alis ng bansa. At saka meron din siyang brother who is living in UK. Sabi ko, what happened to the people who doesn't have the resources, who doesn't have the money, so hindi sa makakaalis? Kasi meron din kaming kasama si Said na Eritrean din, na mahirap din and wala siyang pera, sabi niya. Iba naman ang kaso ni Said kasi Said belongs to a traditional tribal group. And yung tribal group ni Said is less na lang yung kanilang mga tao. So, they are almost extinct na yung group na yon. So, ang natira nila sa group nila yon, sa tribe nila, is yung mga matatanda na ayaw nang magbiyahe. Parang tanggap na nila na dito na kami mamamatay. Pero yung mga bata nila, they are supporting them. So, lahat ng mga refugees from those tribal group, which he belong, from anywhere in Germany, UK, France, everywhere in Europe, they are contributing money para makaalis si Said from Eritrea at makapunta ng ibang bansa. So, when Said fled, yung mga members ng tribal group na yun, nagko-contribute ng ilang euro hanggang sa maka-finance siya kay Said. And then, Said fled from Eritrea to Egypt. And then he speaks Arabic, so medyo madali lang sa kanya doon. And also, when he was in Egypt, he also got a lot of support and help from the tribal members of his tribe. So, yun. So, mabalik tayo kay Faisa. So, sabi ko sa kanya, so, anong ginawa mo? Paano ka nakarating dito sa Belgium? So, sabi niya, when he was in Rome, pumunta na naman siya ng Milan. Kasi medyo malapit na siya medyo sa north na siya, so medyo madali na mag-travel. And then from Milan, he was planning to go to his sister sa Switzerland. Yun nga lang, kasagsagan yun ng COVID and very strict yung immigration control ng Switzerland and Italy. So, 2 beses siya nag-attempt sa train, nahuli siya ng 2 beses. So, pinabalik sila ulit sa Milan. Then when he was in Milan, he found again another smuggler, and that smuggler promised him na mas madali ang papuntang Brussels kasi medyo less ang control, and then medyo yun ang pinakamadaling way para makarating ng North Europe, ganyan. So yun yung ginawa niya. So from Milan, he took the train going to Nice in France, and from Nice he went to Paris, the capital of France, and from Paris, by train yun, and then from Paris, nag-car na sila papuntang Brussels. And then when he reached Brussels, doon na siya nagpa-register sa asylum refugee dito sa Brussels. And then, good for him. So, kinuha yung kanyang mga pangalan, yung kanyang documents. And then, because Belgium is also supporting some of the refugees, and that refugee center sent him to Lommel. Kasi yun lang yung may city or town dito sa Belgium na may mga quota kasi sila, ilang refugees ang kanilang tinatanggap per year. So, dun siya pinadala sa Lommel. So, doon siya, meron silang house doon, binigyan sila ng bahay, binigyan sila ng pera, and hanggang sa makapag-integrate sila sa community. And then sa ganyan. He was also learning the language, handa nakapaghanap siya ng work sa Lommel. He found a job in also a cheese factory. And then at the same time, while nagwo-work siya doon, prinasas niya rin yung kaniyang visa for his family, yung kanyang asawa at yung kanyang anak na naiwan doon sa Eritrea. And since February last year, sa awa ng Diyos, yung kanyang dalawang anak at saka yung kanyang asawa ay nakarating na dito sa Belgium. So, naghanap siya ng social house, and then, it just so happened na dito malapit sa amin, sa Gitbets, merong siyang nakitang social house dito, and they were able to transfer with his family here in Gitbets. And then, since nga na lumipat siya ng work, doon na rin siya nag-apply sa work namin, sa factory namin, hanggang sa nakapagtrabaho siya doon. Sabi ko, ang hirap pala ng buhay mo, Faisa. Parang sabi ko, when I heard his story, parang I realized that I am very, very lucky. Alam mo yun, I don't have the right, I cannot complain with my life. Parang, yung ibang tao, they have to flee their own country, they have to flee their own family, they have to, ang hirap na kanyang pinagdadaanan. Imagine, iiwanan mo yung bansa mo, not because na gusto mo, but because you have to. Kasi it's a threat. There's a threat for your life. So, yun. Sabi ko nga, when I reflected with his life, parang sabi ko, I am very, very lucky. My life is very comfortable. My life is easy. Kung hindi man naging madali. But then for me, I am very, very happy and very grateful. And I hope that as we celebrate this Lenten season, we continue to find hope and to find the positive aspect of life na kahit ano pa man ang mangyari, lilipas na ang mga problema natin. And I hope we will not have the chance na magiging katulad ang Pilipinas sa bansa ng ibang bansa na yung mga mamamayan ay they have to flee because of threat and because of their own life. So, sana maiwasan natin at sana hindi mangyari sa mga Pilipino sa Pilipinas na yung mga mamamayan is mapipilitan na lumikas kasi nga hindi na siya safe tirahan. I really wish that our government is going to do their best to uplift the life of the Filipinos. I am very positive na sana kung we have a good leadership, strong leadership, I think we can able to manage. Kasi alam ko ang mga Pilipino ay masisipag. We are very, very hardworking, and if given the chance, I think we can really, really prosper. Yung iba nga lang ay walang resources, walang opportunities, kaya nangyayari kaya tingin natin yung iba nagiging tamad. But then, provide jobs, provide opportunities, and we will really prosper. So, yun lang muna, and I hope this is my reflection for today, and I hope you will learn from the experience of my colleague, Faisa. I know there are still a lot of my colleagues who have also different stories, and I hope next time I can share them also to you. Yun lang, maraming salamat, and have a blessed Easter Sunday. Bye!